Namaskaram, welcome to shreeTV. Today we have a very prestigious guest, author of the book The Idle Thief, and he also the co-founder of India Pride Project. Happy to welcome Shree Vijay to shreeTV. Namaskaram, Swami.
Vanakkam, and happy to be part of this effort to talk more about my favorite subject, bringing back our gods.
Yeah, for those who are in X, they can follow Vijay under his handle, Poetry in Stone. So that's exactly what he's been doing. I guess his passion for the temple valuables that needs to be in the temple, what drives him to do a lot of projects like what he does with India Pride Project. But right now we are going to discuss about something which is pretty recent and which is making a lot of news for wrong reasons. So we're going to discuss why the wrong reason is all about. So three statues being discussed to be brought back to India, Bharat, and one of them, out of three, one of them is being made to stay back. And so, Vijayji, why is that? So all the three idols, in fact, all the deities supposed to be, as you said in your article in Swaraj Bag, should be where it should be, right? In temple, and it should be actually, the puja has to be done for it, it has to be decorated, it has to be propitiated, but why is it staying back? One of them, and especially Natraja.
Yeah. So to put this in context, we're going to talk about only a portion of this entire subject, which is going to be like 2-3% of thefts from three temples that we are going to look at. So these three bronzes are from three different thefts that happened, and it's quite interesting, important. We said the narrative proper. So in
Right,
the
yes.
Atma, in terms of what are the prevalent laws, legalities. Before that, let's look at what the other objects that we're talking about. These are not objects, these are Thirumenis in Tamil that we know of. In Tamil, we call sacred bronzes Thirumenis, which are literally translated to mean body of God. So, in the Hindu tradition and in, let's say, Indian tradition, we talk about Ashtadhatu in the Jain faith and Panchaloka in the Hindu faith. These bronzes are made out of a combination of five metals, of which gold and silver offer a very, very minuscule ceremonial value. So it's like 0.00. So these objects typically don't have any material value if they really look at it. Because I'm saying this again because a lot of people think that there's a lot of gold and there have been attempts to melt these for their precious metal as well. So the value that is being attributed to these gods, bodies of gods, is basically from the art market, which commoditizes our gods and uh, translocates objects which are meant and were always meant for worship. They were never intended to be objects of art. That we see them as art is incidental and with the jaundiced eye to say that the original. So when we talk about endowments, which is a very important aspect that we look about, because one of these two of these objects are gift of a big man in the US. So it is his endowment or gift, as you heard. So to put things straight in the legal perspective, you gift something that you own. That means if you don't own it, the title is not with you, the original gift itself fails. And the original gift was by the creator of these bronzes to the temple. So that supersedes everything. So let's look at the legal perspective in this. Because these bronzes were photographed from three temples by the French Institute in Pondicherry in 1956 and 1957. So this is the last known where they were still under worship in the temple. We know the exact dates they were there, and the French Institute's archive has been fundamental in a lot of recoveries, especially from South India. So the temples that we're talking about, one is from Tirupundi Taluk, the other one is from Alathur, another one is from Veeracholapur. These three temples were faced a host of thefts, and they were largely unreported. And so these dates are very important because to put things in context again, internationally, India and Italy campaigned the UN in the 1960s because there was so much of thefts happening. that we said, look, we need an international body to come in with a global kind of effort to say that enough's enough, stop this smuggling of antiquities. And this antiquity is defined as, in terms of our objects, anything over 100 years. So, based on this, the UN passed which is today called the 1970 Convention or a statute, which basically is an enabling convention, it says that source countries have to enact, we have to do certain things that prohibit export of artifacts. And once you are a signatory, and like for example, two states, in this case, America and India, are signatories to this convention. If we can prove as a sovereign nation that that happened after 1970, we don't have to go to court. You just invoke the statute of the convention and say that, look, you have stolen this, you have stolen property, and it was stolen after 1970. The destination country has 30 days to refute a claim, to say that, look, your claim is false or whatever. If they can't, the artifact is forfeit to the source nation. So this is the convention. So how the art market interprets this is that they look at 1970 as some Lakshman Rekha that miraculously washes a stolen object. So if anything is already in your country before 1970, the general opinion in the art market is that it is untouchable, which is very, very wrong. Even the UN 1970 Convention says, look, as today the UN even then had no teeth. So they said they couldn't go and pass a retrospective law. So they said, honor the spirit. So if you look at section 5 and 6, it says, okay, your signatory, from the date of signatory, you have to. But even prior to that, we implore you to honor the spirit. Number 2, then we go into common law. What common law states that a thief does not pass title. So that means a stolen object can never be washed. So for a layman, what this means is you have to go to court. You can't go into the UN convention. Diplomatically, we can ask for, but legally you can challenge, because any property you need to have possession, ownership, and title. In this case, because we can prove it's a stolen object, title does not pass. Another important thing in this is that India has successfully fought legal battles and also used the threat of legal in two important cases in the 1970s. One is the famous London Nataraja or the Pattur Nataraja case, wherein bronze was stolen from India, smuggled out via Bombay. On the way to Canada, it was in London for cleaning. Scotland Yard stopped it, and India fought a legal claim. It's important to know in that there were many claimants as who are the owners of this. Indian state, the state of Tamil Nadu, and the temple. And the British courts, of course, even though we have the colonial legacy, we always claim, even the British courts acknowledge the superior claim of the temple. And it's important to read the letter. It says that even though a Hindu temple is ruined, as per the scriptures, as per the Agamas, as long as there is even a single brick of that temple that is there, it can be brought back to worship. So that was the upper end, and this was used in the Ayodhya case as well. So it is important that India, and why I'm saying this is Pattur Nataraja was moved out of the country in 1957. Similarly, we have the Silpuram bronze that was bought by that time the richest man in the history of the world, Norton Simon. In 1971, India challenged it in the US courts, and then, long story short, we offered a out-of-court settlement. This bronze Nataraja from Silpuram was kept in a public US museum for 10 years and then returned back to India. But surreptitiously, he included a clause which was not made public then, that allowed Norton Simon to acquire any Indian artifact. We will not ask any questions. So the idea was to bring back the Nataraja. We'll keep our eyes closed on the rest. Something similar is being offered or tried to do in the current case of the Smithsonian, which was why we are doing this. So if you look at the news being currently flashed around, Smithsonian claims that in Jan, as per their press statement, they were made aware in 2022 of the proof that these were stolen, and they had their internal due diligence kicked up, and they wrote to the ASI. So they have pushed this to 2022, whereas we have now access to internal records, And we had done the matching. In fact, I had put this up in social media. In 2017, we had already submitted these matches to ASI and also the Idol Wing. And there are newspaper reports in 2018. So the funny story is that in the current set of disclosures which we have obtained through our friends in the US, they actually have screenshots of my interactions on Twitter with another art crime institute in Italy of 2018, wherein and then in 2020, where they're talking about, look, Vijay has the proof. He's put out the proof. He's talking in a video about our bronzes. And then they're writing to another institution, which earlier, before these bronzes came to them, there was one bronze that was with another museum. So they're writing to them saying, did you do any background checks and all that? And more interestingly, in 2018, when Veera Cholabhuram was in the news for all the wrong reasons, there was an officer of the Idol Wing who, for some reason, tried to, let's say, pin this as part of Subhash Kapoor's theft, which was very, very wrong thing to do. Again, Subhash Kapoor, is the purported villain or hero of my book or whatever we want to talk about. So, in fact, the museum is then trying to twist it to say that, look, we obtained this, we have documentation that proves that we had one of these bronzes from 1968. Kapoor emigrated in 1974. So, since this, we are out of it. So, this was the attitude then. But luckily for us, to go back when we were working with law enforcement, which we do on a pro bono basis, we had worked on the Kapoor dossier. So for your viewers who have not read the book or don't understand what this is, there are a lot of suppliers in India who are basically selling our gods. And pre-social media, what they would do is they would take photographs of these objects, typically in the temple or just after the theft. So you actually have them holding a dhoti or a lungi behind as a background. So basically, a broker selling or facilitating marriages, bride photos, bridegroom's photos. These guys are actually offering. So we call it in our technical term, these are called robber offering photos. So there was a lot of robber offering photos which was in Kapoor's dossier, and we had made a lot of matches to it. At some point, I came up saying that, look, let's look at what he didn't buy. So you have a corpus of, say, let's take an example, 100 robber offering photos. Kapoor would have bought 20. So there's 80 that is in the hands of a smuggler in India. Where did it end up? And non-Kapoor purchases. So based on that, we work because we have our own archives. We realized there were a couple of other similar dealers who had bought these objects. And one of those dealers who's now, we can't disclose a lot of information, but this was a mother-daughter set, which is the Vienna Galleries. Doris Wiener and Nancy Werner. The mother passed away, so the daughter is now indicted of crimes. And that happened 2016. So now this is the context. So on one side, the museum that bought it is already aware of all this happening because Kapoor was charged, arrested in 2011, extradited to India in 2012. And then the case is happening. Australia, for example, returned or an object which was purchased from Vienna in 2013, which was a cushioned Buddha, which physically came to India in 2015. So they knew that they had bought an object from Vienna Galleries, which is this Nataraja. So they knew from at least 10 years ago that they had a tainted object, which they should have done their due diligence. Even if they didn't do it then, in 2017, 2018, they were made aware of the in situ photographs that have been available. What is funny in this case is the museum website claims to three things. So we're talking about three bronzes. One is Saint Sundarar and Paravai, his consort, who is one of the Myanmars. Very rare sculpture. This is from Veera Cholabhuram. We think stylistically is from the Vijayanagara period. And then we have a Somaskanda from Attur, again from the beautiful Chola bronze. And of course, this fantastic Nataraja from Tirupati temple. Now, for the Nataraja, when we were doing this research, we knew it was stolen. At that time, we didn't know it was stolen. We were looking at objects that are linked to Vienna. So the proof that they claimed or what they had was that this object came into America in 1971, and they bought it 20 years or 25 years later. At that time, they were provided three expert, uh, let's say, backing, and all three are Lotus awardees. I don't want to taint the awards name, the highest awards from Indian government. So there was one expert who was actually the curator of the museum buying it, Vijay. She claims in her curatorial work that Prajapaditya Pal, another Lotus awardee, saw this bronze in 1971 in America. So the question is, if you already know, so why is this date important? Why is it 1971? So we went and dug more, and we realized that this bronze was physically imported into the US in 1972. Now, why this is a thing is, when the UN came up with the 1970 convention, India was supposed to enact a matching regulation in India. And India passed our Antiquities and Art Treasures Act in 1972, which was tabled in Parliament, and it became an act in 1977, retrospective basis. So today we have the Antiquities Art Treasures Act 1972. Even though we've had export bans going back, we have the Buried Treasure Trove Act from 1890, we have 1904, we have 1958, we have the Indian Customs Act. So there have been many acts, but the Antiquities and Art Treasures Act in 1972. So there was an attempt even at that time to push this acquisition and importation date back to 1971. And the second thing, what we realized was the physical importation document, which was basically a deal made between Werner and a gallery in London, Rajarama Art Galleries, said that this object was imported, country of origin, Thailand, Bangkok, a Nataraja coming from Bangkok. And then 6 months later, they're writing a short note to customs to say that, oh, we made a clerical error. This is not from Thailand, this is from India. So obviously, all this was known even before this scandal. If somebody had looked at all this, they would have known that something is fishy. You don't have a Nataraja coming from Thailand and then you have the paperwork saying all this is there. And most articles, there's another awardee, Dr. Nagasamy, is quoted in the museum's website and also in the curatorial document saying that we don't know when, but he is supposed to, as per the note submitted as proof, that he said this as an exceptional bronze, and he cast no aspersions that it is one of the stolen idols. And they specifically mentioned that he was a retired or member of the ASI. All these three are wrong. He was state archaeologist, now ASI, and he had no business in certifying the authenticity or otherwise of these. So these three things are there still as open-ended points. Why he was asked, why he said, why did he see it, and all that. Now, coming back to our larger question. So 2016, we have provided the proof. 2017, I presume letters would have gone out. 2018, it is out in the open. So the museum tries to say that they got it only in 2022, 23, let's say whatever, COVID. But we know the internal paperwork has huge exchanges. There was social media manager who's talking about us in 2018 itself. So a lot of these things. So there is an attempt by the museum to say that, look, we got the information, we've acted prudently, promptly, which is all wrong. Okay, whatever narrative. They want to do the right thing, they want to give back. All three bronzes are to be restituted to India. The right word is restitution, because it is not a gift, it is not a repatriation. That is, restitution means giving it back to the right owner without any payment. Good. Now, there is a small fine print that says that the Nataraja will be on a long-term loan. Now, this is where the problem arises. The problem arises saying that who is eligible to offer this as a long-term loan? Again, we go back to the London Nataraja case where I said the title rests with the temple. The temple, there is an FIR filed. So the Tamil Nadu state has to acknowledge the rights of the temple. The temple has, even the temple does not have a right to align or, let's say, change an endowment. Especially, this is not some land or property of the temple. This is the god himself. So how can somebody so so this is the main issue. And the reason is, if they are acknowledging it is stolen, if they are acknowledging the proof provided is enough, it passes the threshold, and they're returning the other two bronzes physically to India from Alathur and Veeracholapuram with the same pre-theft in situ photographs. Incidentally, there is another dealer, William Wolf, who actually sold two of the others, one of the other, and the other two are gifts of Sackler. And it's actually in the freer. Sackler, Sackler is linked to the opioid scandal and all. They're a company that made a lot of money on painkilling medicine and all that. So their name is now kept out. It's now said Smithsonian. Fine. They want to return two, but you have to see in the international market, though our gods are priceless. Myanmars and Somaskandas are literally priced lower because Nataraja is considered the high water mark of Indian art, and they claim $1 million numbers, whereas a Vijayanagara period Myanmar would be 300 to $400,000 or whatever, and a Somaskanda would be in a million range, and Nataraja would go in upwards of 3 to 4 million. So, this is an attempt to cloak. Now, who are you trying to fool? When the headline reads three bronzes to being restituted, why is the small print saying it's converted to long-term loan? So this is where I think we should not agree. We have no reason to agree, and we have no authority to agree. When I say we, anybody in India, including the temple, has no authority, because today temple control and all is an issue. So these people can be arm twisted to do anything. We've seen a lot of other similar stuff. And more importantly and more dangerously, if you take just from these three temples, there are at least another 12 bronzes that are currently with the Metropolitan Museum, with the LACMA, with Nelson Atkinson, and two more that were sold by Christie, that are currently still dispersed and standing in limbo. Now, we are setting out a dangerous precedent. Everybody will say, okay, we are returning in paper, we'll get a good name, convert to long term loan. Who cares? We cannot bring it back. So that is where I feel. So in this case, Government of India, the temple, Tamil Nadu Bridal Wing, whoever should insist that the god should come back. Now, if you want to really do a swap, do it from something that is in your stock. So there are a lot of buried hoards, which we feel that still should go back to the temple. These are meant for worship. So there are some Binnam idols or broken idols and bronzes. Even those can be repaired as per Agmas. Only for stone idols, when there is a major break, they are. So give something that is non-deity. So an architectural fragment or something. If you really want to do them a favor. But I really don't understand why you have to do them a favor. They actually, whoever bought it, was feeding the art market. If they paid $1 million in 1960s, that actually fueled the trade that robbed our temples. And now we are giving them a great save by not going after them. They have been charging fees for visitors for so many years. Our God has there earned money. On top of it, who are you trying to fool by saying you have it as a long-term loan? So it doesn't change anything. The display, and the funny thing is, they will confirm that they will hold a board there saying this is a stolen idol and we have returned it to India. And that board will be in America and they will be there. So this is what it is. Well, that is the strange thing. Nobody seems to have a copy of this loan agreement or whatever is signed. So this is there is nobody talking about it. It's just the museum's press release which reads this, and then amplification by media outlets in India and also by the Ministry of Culture, Ministry of External Affairs. And we've seen similar such activities happening for another thing which we might talk in a later episode, the Pipravaha Buddhist dance, which we can discuss in a following episode, wherein we have bought back these through Godrej, and we are claiming that it's a great repatriation, which is not. We have just bought it at market value. Nobody knows what value was paid. So I think what we need to do is, like for example, Italy has never done anything like this. Today, if you take globally, which are the countries that are uh, on the forefront of restitution, it's Cambodia, India, let's say Egypt, and then on top of the list is Italy. And Italy To give you numbers, India from 1970 to 2000 brought back 19 objects, 19 objects. 2000 to 2012, zero. 2012 to now, physically what have come back to India, we have crossed 650 odd. Another 2000 odd is another 2000 odd sitting in the US. Well, I'll give you the other states and then other countries, and then you can see whether it's a huge number or not. Another 2000 is waiting in the US, primarily for another procedural work that is unique to India. All other countries, whenever a stolen object is seized and restituted, they bring it back. Whereas India insists that officers from ASI will fly to America, inspect the object, ensure it is an antique, and then only ship it back. Plus, we don't seem to have the funds to pay for the insurance and transport as well. Whereas, as per last, Cambodia has got back in the last 10 years over 2,000 objects. Nepal has got about 1,200 objects physically back. Italy has got back 370,000 objects. Yeah, so Italy has a national art crime force, which is policed by the best of the art, the police force. They have a legal team. They have a sophisticated image matching software, which tracks global sales and all that. Whereas in India, we have an idol wing in Tamil Nadu that was supposed to have 800 people in 1980s, got down to 8 in 2000s. Then now it has gone up to 600. And then Kerala has a temple protection force, which I think has tracked three domestic cases only. And then Karnataka announced an idol wing in 2016, announced an idol wing in 2017, announced an idol wing in 2019, announced an idol wing in 2021. So they've just been announcing. So I think India desperately needs a national art crime squad. And it should not be an idle squad. It should be idle recovery charged with. In fact, we have worked with the Economic Advisory Council when late Shree Roy was there. White paper has been submitted to Parliament, and then based on it, JPC was convened, and JPC put out 2 years ago almost a 600-page recommendations, none of which sadly have seen light.
Right. Unfortunate. Unfortunate. I guess this has been the case. The point you made is that it is being seen just as an idol other than the God himself. What do you think we should do to change this mindset in the bureaucracy and people at large? Who do you think can actually start working for this? People like you. I guess your team is there, but is that enough?
See, our job is basically assisting law enforcement. We can't do anything on our own. Number two, especially when, let's say, ill advised people take these stupid photo op led decisions, which will have a cascading impact for centuries to come through. So, one such act of 1970. Today, we know, like, for example, there are other idols that we have found in Norton Simon that I told you in Norton Simon in the Sivapuram case, he signed okay, he bought this Nataraja from Sivapuram for $1 million in 1970. $1 million in 1970 is a huge amount. Now we know that he managed to wrangle a deal that for 2 years he will acquisition any Indian art that is provided it's already outside of India. And basically he bought all his idols from his godown and put it into the museum. We know in the 2 year period from 1970 to 1974, at least 800 Indian objects were officially included into the Norton Simon object. In that, we have already tracked at least 10 objects that are not only from Tamil Nadu, from various states that are straight away stolen with pre-theft photos. But because we need to understand, and this, let's say, out of court settlement is not in public domain. Nobody seems to have it. And worst is there is an open FIR for Sivapuram, which says the Natarajas come back. There is no news of the rest of the icons. The Somaskanda from Sivapuram is on display in Norton Simon with a plate saying Sivapuram. And it is photographed in a 1967 book by P.R. Srinivasan along with the Nataraja in the next page. So for a long time, we end up doing these deals on the side ill-advised deals on the side. And this, when I say ill-advised, is because India does not want to sue a museum, whereas Italy has actually sued and ensured that curators are taken to task. To answer your question, what should India do? See, there has to be a deterrent. A deterrent for this is that Indian art is no longer fair game. A quiet handover, a quiet loan agreement does not is like a rap on the wrist. What we need to do is to pursue these leads to see how and why they got it and go after them, those who are delaying. So, like, for example, I said this has taken almost 8 years. There are cases where it's still dragging for almost decades. Enough of soft diplomacy. Let's go and exercise rights. This is, and there is an ill-advised opinion that pre-1970 is difficult to secure, which is what the art market and the advisors to the Indian government maybe want them to say that, okay, pre 1970, let's go with the begging bowl. After 1970, we have, which is not the case, and which is not just for India. Many other countries have successfully screwed. And, it's more important that unless you challenge these, let's say, uh, vagaries legally, the
You have a
temples,
framework. You don't have a framework to work with. So it's everybody's
see,
whims and fancies in the
they have,
bureaucracy that works.
they have been provided wrong advice. Like,
Yes.
you are signing a long-term loan of an object where you don't have the title. தானம் வந்து நீங்க பக்கத்து வீட்டுக்காரர் மாட தானம் கொடுத்து. So basically, this happens where it's not yours and gifting what is not yours to somebody and saying, okay, you keep it. No, it's not yours. Period. That's it. You have no authority to even talk about it. So who's the owner? The temple is the owner. And the temple can never, it beats me that you could even think about, okay, you give it back, but you keep it. So this is like an oxymoron.
Right. So it is more like a moral victory, right? Where, okay, both sides, it's a win-win situation diplomatically, but at the end, the loser is the God himself. So the lack of understanding among people is still, flabbergasting that people are not really going after, as I said, the deterrent part, like how we can actually implement something what Italy has done. Who should actually drive this? Who should actually push government to do this? Just like you. Do we need more people? Do we need more people talking in social media? Or do we need more people coming out in open and supporting you?
I think it's the question of communities. These are your ancestral treasures. These are your gods, more importantly. And if you don't claim them, well, I see a lot of people think, oh, they're better off in America. It's not your bloody decision.
Okay. Right.
To be honest, you have no right. First of all, the law of the land is there. It means it's a theft. You cannot justify 2 spotlights in an air-conditioned hall to say that, okay, they are in better state, because these gods were never intended to be in the spotlight. And a small temple, a loving care of a priest who brings it a small bowl of rice in the morning and then gives it a tender bath and sings songs. That's what they were meant to be, and they were happy for 1,000 years till dollar-driven greed basically removed them to be crudely displayed as a showpiece curio. And people should understand that not all stolen antiquities land up in museums. Hardly 5 to 6% of our antiquities land up in museums. Rest of it lands up with private collectors who keep our gods in their bedrooms, lining their swimming pools and garden furniture. We have seen Nandis sitting in gardens. We've got Mahishasura sitting in outdoor lawns, and our Koshtamurtis lining a swimming pool of a rich and famous. And definitely, these Koshtamurtis were meant to guard our gods, not watch naked billionaires in America take bath.
So we do not have any blasphemy kind of law that would actually drive us crazy with regards to something like this. Listening to this itself makes feel as ashamed. I don't know what else we could do, but anyway, thank you, Vijay. As I said, we will keep doing this series as
Yes, we
such.
will keep doing it, and I would say that, see, each one of these institutions is a victory. And each one of these restitutions opens up a lot of stuff for researchers. I just want to end with the last note to say that the same dealer who sold some of these bronzes, we already have two objects. One was actually returned to Cambodia. Another one was basically what came back from Australia for us for the Sirgari Samandar that was stolen
Anandamangalam.
in 1968.
Yep.
And in this text, when we looked at what was sold, I told you that the Smithsonian was actually asking another museum which had these objects on like a loan before it was given as a permanent gift to the museum. They had submitted paperwork and we have access to that. That shows the stock of William Wolf, with another 7 bronzes and 3 Khmer sculptures that he had offered in the late 90s. They've hidden the date, but we know it is 1970s. So this is adding to our to find list, and we will match and we'll work on. So each of these restitutions, when it opens up, the museums are forced to show what they have, to say that look, this was the due diligence there, and each of this shows a modus operandi of how the trade operated maybe 60 years ago, 50 years ago, and this is a pattern that we can use for other claims. So we know that this dealer, this is his way of working. The same pattern comes and it's repeated. So next we would start working with or working against the Metropolitan Museum, the LACMA, Nelson Atkins, Simon, Norton Simon, who also have bronzes from the same temples looted. So you'll see and hear more on this in the coming days and weeks.
In fact, even before, I believe, maybe before or after the Ayodhya happened, the Anantamangalam, Sri Rama, Lakshmana, Sita, Sameta, Sri Rama came back to the Sirgari, near Sirgari, Karaikal, en route to Karaikal temple, Anantamangalam, beautiful temple. I guess once you go there, see what's happening in a daily puja, you will understand why it is absolutely important for the god to come back.
To add to it, sadly, the
bless us.
Rama, Lakshmana, and Sita we got back August 15th of 2018. Physically, we came back to the temple in
Awesome.
2019.
Awesome.
The priest who's currently in, his father is the one who worked with us on this case. Sadly, the Hanuman of that group is still in Singapore.
Still there.
Despite that, when we gave the proof to the dealer, he gave it back in 2018, whereas a public museum in Singapore is refusing to hand over since now we're waiting for almost now 9 years for the Rama. So every time I go to the temple, the priest says, Vijay, we bought back 3. What happened to Sri? So yeah, it's let's say
soon.
Yeah, 78% success and 25% still diplomacy. I hope they don't sign a long-term loan for that as well.
Hopefully, I guess they don't take precedence from what they have done with Smithsonian, hopefully. Yeah, Vijay, thank you very much. We're going to continue another episode soon. Thank you.